Hey, I'm Emma, and this is a story I never thought I'd tell anyone. But here we are. Before we dive in, let me ask you this. When was the last time you felt truly seen? Stick around because this story might make you question what you're settling for in your own life. So, it was my 50th birthday, the big five. You'd think that after being married to Mark for 25 years, he'd make a big deal about it, right? Wrong. I spent the day waiting for a call, a text, flowers, anything, but nothing. Mark was buried in his work, like always. It hurt. I mean, we've had our ups and downs, but this felt like a new low. By the time the clock hit 8 p.m., I realized it. He forgot. My heart sank, and I felt invisible again. Or I decided I wasn't going to sit at home feeling sorry for myself. I grabbed my coat, slipped on my heels, and headed out. There was this little bar downtown that I hadn't been to in years. I needed a drink or two. Walking into the bar, I felt a little self conscious. I wasn't in my 20s anymore, but I still knew how to turn heads. The dim lighting, the soft jazz playing in the background, it felt like the perfect place to disappear for a while. I ordered a glass of wine and sat at the counter, sipping slowly. Lost in thought, that's when I heard him. "Rough night?" a deep voice asked. I turned and saw him, tall, salt and pepper hair, piercing blue eyes, and a smile that made my heart skip a beat. "You could say that," I replied, trying not to sound too desperate for conversation. "Jack," he said, extending his hand. "Emma," I said, shaking it. His grip was firm, his touch lingering just a little longer than necessary. Have you ever met someone who changed your life in just one conversation? Let me know in the comments below. We started talking. I told him about my birthday, about how Mark had forgotten. Jack listened, really listened. It felt good to be seen, to be heard. "A woman like you should never feel invisible," he said, his gaze locked on mine. "You're stunning." I blushed. I couldn't remember the last time someone made me feel that way. We talked for hours. The conversation flowed so easily, like we'd known each other forever. I laughed more than I had in months, and every time his hand brushed mine, I felt a spark. "You deserve to be celebrated," Jack said, leaning in a little closer. There was a pause. I knew what he was suggesting, and for the first time in a long time, I felt alive. I nodded. Um, what would you do if a stranger offered you what your partner couldn't? Stay tuned. Jack took my hand and led me to his car. It was sleek black and matched his polished demeanor. We drove to a nearby hotel, the anticipation building with every mile. In the suite, he handed me a beautifully wrapped box. "Happy birthday, Emma," he said, his voice low and velvety. I opened it. Inside was a silk robe, deep red, soft as a whisper. I ran my fingers over the fabric, my heart racing. "Put it on," Jack whispered. I stepped into the bathroom, slipping out of my dress and into the robe. It hugged my body perfectly. Looking in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I felt sexy. When I stepped out, Jack's eyes darkened with desire. "You look breathtaking," he murmured, walking toward me. Jack took my hand and led me to the bed. His touch was gentle, but there was an urgency to it, like he couldn't get enough of me. His fingers traced along my jawline, down my neck, stopping at the tie of the robe. "May I?" he asked, his voice husky. I nodded, barely able to breathe. Jack untied the robe, letting it fall open. His eyes traveled over my body, filled with admiration and hunger. "You're beautiful," he said, kissing my shoulder. His lips moved slowly, exploring every inch of me, his hands following, gentle yet commanding. I melted under his touch, feeling desired in a way I hadn't in years. We moved together, our bodies perfectly in sync. Every kiss, every touch ignited something deep inside me. It was passionate, intense, and utterly freeing. For the first time in a long time, I felt alive. I felt wanted, and I didn't want the night to end. What does feeling truly desired mean to you? Let's talk in the comments. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow on the room. I stirred, feeling Jack's arm draped over my waist. "Good morning," he whispered, pressing a kiss to my temple. I smiled. "Good morning." For the first time in years, I felt truly seen, appreciated, cherished. "Thank you for last night," I said, looking into his eyes. "It was the best birthday I've ever had." Jack cut my face, his thumb brushing my cheek. "You deserve to feel that way every day." I didn't want to leave, but reality was waiting. Later that day, I returned home. Mark was still in his office, completely oblivious to what had happened. I stood in the doorway, watching him, the man I'd loved for so long, who had become a stranger to me. "Mark," I said, my voice steady. He looked up, surprised to see me standing there. "Emma, what's up?" I took a deep breath. "We need to talk." As I spoke, I realized something. The night with Jack had awakened a part of me I thought I'd lost. A desire to live fully, to be seen, to be loved passionately, and I would never settle for less again. That night changed everything. It wasn't just about the passion or the romance, it was about rediscovering myself, realizing that I deserved more. Have you ever had a moment that made you completely rethink your life? Share your story below. Let's start a conversation.